Dad's 60th birthday party was an event straight out of a corporate brochure: crystal chandeliers, expensive wine, and conversations that sounded more like stock reports than human speech. Golf buddies, business partners, and retired CEOs filled the country club ballroom, all congratulating themselves on their financial foresight. And then there was me, the 30-year-old artistic disappointment. "Ah, here's our little artist," Dad announced loudly as I approached the table, patting the empty chair beside him like I was a pet returning from obedience school, still playing with paint and calling it a career. My brother Marcus laughed, adjusting his tie as though he were posing for Forbes Magazine, the newly minted law firm partner, Harvard graduate, and golden child. "Some people never grow up, Dad, still finger painting at 30 while the rest of us have actual jobs." Polite laughter rippled around the table, the kind people give when they aren't sure if something is funny, but don't want to risk disapproval. Now, Mom said in her cheerful damage control voice, the same one she'd used when cousin Linda eloped with a magician. "At least she's happy. Not everyone can be responsible like Marcus. Some people need to explore, even if it doesn't go anywhere." Uncle Richard leaned forward. "So what do you do again with art? Teach kids? Sell paintings?" "I'm an independent curator and acquisition specialist," I replied evenly. "I help collectors and institutions acquire historical and contemporary works." Marcus snorted. Translation: she helps rich people pick out wall decor. It's personal shopping, but with frames. The table erupted into laughter like he delivered a stand-up routine instead of an insult. They didn't know that the decor I'd placed had included Renaissance originals, lost Impressionist pieces, and a 17th-century portrait recovered from a private vault in Vienna. They didn't know I'd built a global network of historians, archivists, and collectors. They didn't know that while Marcus was billing by the hour, I was negotiating deals worth more than his annual salary in a single phone call. "The art world is cute," one of Dad's golf partners chimed in, "but no benefits, no pension. What happens when you're old and can't paint anymore?" "She doesn't paint," Marcus laughed. "She just looks at paintings and tells people which ones to buy. Must be exhausting." The condescension rolled over me like heat from a fire. I stayed quiet, cutting my salmon slowly. "Still crammed in that tiny studio apartment?" Marcus asked. "Dad and I were saying, you should consider something stable. Real estate, maybe, or we could get you a paralegal position." My studio was a renovated industrial loft in Chelsea that I owned outright, but explaining that would require acknowledging that my career, the one they mocked, had out-earned them all. Uncle Richard leaned back with finality. "That's the issue with artistic types. They think passion is currency. In business, if you don't produce, you starve." Maybe she needs a little reality. Dad nodded. "Exactly why I pushed law. Law is stable, respectable. Marcus gets it. He's building something real." Marcus smiled like a man accepting a crown. "It's about contribution. Law creates order," he said. "Art is decorative." The table hummed with confident agreement while my thoughts drifted to the Caravaggio I had authenticated last month, a painting misattributed for decades in a sleepy local museum. Confirming its provenance had sparked international headlines and a $50 million valuation. My family hadn't noticed. "So what's your biggest sale?" Bob asked, smiling the way adults do when speaking to toddlers. "What's the most expensive painting you've ever helped someone buy?" Marcus leaned forward, eager to assist in my public humiliation. "Yes, enlighten us. What's your personal record? 5,000? 10, if someone was feeling generous?" My phone buzzed in my purse. I ignored it. God forbid I looked distracted. They already believed I spent my life hiding behind screens and canvases. "Come on," Marcus pushed, grinning. "This is your moment. Tell us about your crowning artistic achievement." They watched me like spectators awaiting a punchline. "The problem with art," Dad lectured the group, "is that it's not merit-based like real professions. Success is luck and networking. There's no ladder to climb, no measurable wins." "Exactly," Marcus agreed. "In law, you win cases. In business, you make money. Art, who decides what's valuable?" I thought of the Picasso authentication I had completed last week, a piece that had baffled 3 major auction houses until I traced its chain of ownership back to Picasso's studio. It would likely sell above $80 million in the coming auction. "The important thing," Mom added kindly, "is that she's doing something she enjoys, even if it's not sustainable long-term. Not everyone is built for high pressure." My phone buzzed again, and again. Then another phone rang at the table. Bob excused himself to answer. But before he returned, my phone began ringing audibly, loud, clear, impossible to ignore. Marcus sighed. Do you mind? We're actually trying to have a conversation. I answered. Hello? Miss Winters, said a poised voice with a gentle French accent. This is Dr. Isabelle Dubosi, Director of Acquisitions at the Louvre. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Silence dropped like a curtain. Utensils froze midair. The Louvre, I repeated. Yes, she replied warmly. Without thinking, I pressed speakerphone. I'm calling regarding the Monet acquisition you handled for us last month. Your authentication work was exceptional. The museum board has approved a special exhibition exclusively featuring pieces you have authenticated. Marcus went still. Dad's glass hovered inches from his lips. We're calling it Hidden Masterpieces, the Winters Collection. 12 significant works you've rediscovered or authenticated, including the long-lost Van Gogh and the Degas believed destroyed during the war. Uncle Richard blinked. Did she just say, the Louvre? The exhibition opens next month. Dr. Dubosi continued. President Macron will attend the gala opening, along with global directors and collectors. Your research has transformed the field. I met my family's stunned faces, mere minutes after listening to them dismantle my life's work. I'd be honored to attend, I said evenly. Wonderful, and congratulations again on the Times article about your recent Rodin discovery. Paris awaits you, the art detective who finds lost masterpieces. What a lovely headline, though I suppose you're used to that kind of recognition by now. Marcus was now furiously scrolling through Google, each search result making his expression tighten further. We'll send the formal invitation to your gallery, Dr. Dubosi added. The one in Chelsea, yes? Such a stunning space for your private collection. That would be perfect, I said. When the call ended, silence fell like a curtain, 20 full seconds of stunned quiet. The Louvre, Dad finally whispered, the actual Louvre, in Paris. Mom stared like she was seeing me for the first time. Sweetheart, what exactly do you do? Marcus lifted his phone slowly, his confidence completely gone. There are articles about you, everywhere. New York Times, Smithsonian, Art News. They're calling you the most important art authentication expert of your generation. Bob returned to his seat just as Uncle Richard read aloud in disbelief. Elena Winters, whose research has recovered over $2 billion worth of lost artwork. $2 billion, Bob echoed weakly. I nodded. Authentication and recovery. When museums lose track of a painting, or when a work's history is questioned, they call me. Dad set his glass down carefully, his hands trembling. Elena, why didn't you tell us? I looked around the table, the same people who had spent the evening belittling me. When would I have, between the lectures about getting a real job, while you laughed about me finger painting at 30? Marcus kept scrolling. It says here, you have a PhD from Oxford, in art history and authentication. When did you? We thought you only had a bachelor's. You stopped asking, I said, the moment I chose art over law school. You decided the rest of my life wasn't worth keeping track of. Mom's voice trembled. But your tiny apartment, your old car. I live simply because I choose to, I replied. Prestige and status symbols don't impress me, discovery does. Uncle Richard cleared his throat. If we'd known, you'd have treated me differently, I said, which is exactly why I never corrected you. People were beginning to stare. Word had already spread. Someone at table 7 had just received a call from the Louvre. Marcus spoke softly now. We love you. We just didn't understand. You didn't try to, I said, picking up my purse. You decided art was frivolous, so everything I did became frivolous by default. I stood. Enjoy the rest of Dad's party. I have international calls to return. Dad rose halfway from his chair. Where are you going? Back to my finger painting, I said. There's a lost Picasso waiting for authentication before the exhibition. As I walked through the marble lobby, whispers chased behind me. By morning, Dad's golf partners would know. By week's end, the entire club would. But none of it mattered. I had built something legendary while they were too busy looking down on it to recognize its worth. 3 months later, the Louvre exhibition opened to critical acclaim. The Times called it a masterclass in forensic art history, and the rediscovery of the missing Van Gogh dominated international headlines. At the gala, surrounded by curators, historians, and collectors who saw me, truly saw me, I finally understood. Sometimes the world needs proof before it believes in your worth. But you should never wait for permission to build something extraordinary.